On this type of board, I decided just to check based on his low flatting percentage. It probably means that he's calling with a lot stronger hands. Like he's probably not even defending with a hand like this that I have. So I'm not sure how much we're folding out here on the flop. So decide just to check and do a delayed c-bet if he checks again. He bets the turn. I think it's a pretty straightforward call. He can have so many draws, and then best river ever. Let's see what he does first. So he bets 80 on the river, and against stronger players, I think like this could definitely, like their bet size could be super balanced here, and they could be betting 80 with all their missed draws as well. But I think this guy is probably more likely to be doing this with some type of medium strength showdown value. Whether that's 9x or 5x or whatever. So because of that, I think I probably lean towards a fold here. I mean, getting 80 into 240, 3-1, we got to be right 1 in 4 times, 25%. I mean, I think it's close. There's just, I mean, on one hand, there's just so many queen 8s, 10 8s, 10 7s, king 10s, king queens even, since he's not an aggressive 3-better, that I think it's probably a call. It just doesn't, against this player type exactly, it just doesn't feel that great. We can see that he didn't 3-bet all in with ace-5, which is almost like a mandatory ship pre-flop. Just plays really bad post-flop, and like the situation that he was in there was basically like the best situation that he was going to get in with that hand, calling out of position. On this board, we're not going to fight for it. You know, if it was king 7, 4 maybe. Ace king 2, I'm not sure how much we can represent where he's going to believe us. And like I said, even at 15 BB with 4 deuce, I'm going to be raising against him. He just doesn't ship wide enough. He folds too much on the flop and just doesn't fight for enough pots. So it's interesting that his pre-flop raise is around 75-80%, and then it gets down to about 50% once we get down to about 10 big blinds, which would indicate like a normally like a standard aggressive player, but it's just not the case this particular opponent. Jack 8, I think could be a ship or a call here. I could go for either. I think I decide just to lead here if I know my own game. Just with 2 overs, we have equity and some backdoor draws. Any like 8, 9, 10, jack, 7, whatever we can bet on the turn. And I also think it's a board that if he just has like queen X on or whatever, he'll just give up a lot. King X. So decided to check back with 7s. I think again this board, queen 9, 6's texture hits his range really well. The 10's a pretty bad card, and we're just checking down and hoping he has like 6, 7 or something. Definitely want to limp this hand. I think it'd be a pretty bad fold. Even hands that I ended up folding, like the 9-4s and stuff like that, I think I should probably be limping against this guy. It's a bit of an equilibrium too, where I don't hate folding like the total junk just to like get him to keep playing passively against my limps instead of limping every single time, and maybe he'll react to that. Jack 5, I don't, at 11 big blinds, I'm not sure that's going to be a profitable defend, and he's probably raise calling enough where it's not going to be a good shove. Could limp or min raise here. Don't think it matters too much. Just decided to limp to see how he reacts to my limping. I think it's the 3rd time we've done it, and he hasn't really reacted at all. So I'd probably tend to just min raise this in the future. I think because he's just not playing aggressively against it. Very easy to call on the turn, and pretty much going to be calling any river unless it's like maybe the Jack of Hearts or something. In terms of, let's see what he does first. If he's value betting this river, I think he's betting any queen. I think it's kind of impossible for him to have an ace. I think even the most passive players are going to be shipping ace X with 10 blinds. So think he does have a decent amount of queen X in his range and 6x, but that combined with the occasional bluff, I think makes it a very straightforward call. I think that's probably a little bit too thin of a bet on his part. If he thinks about our range, about limping and then checking the flop, it's pretty transparent in my opinion that we have some sort of hand, because if we had nothing, we would just bet the flop. Against some people, I'd be calling with queen 8 there, looking at my chart with Nash 9.7, be a pretty straightforward call there, but that's the first time he shoved over a limp. Against him, like I said, his open ship at 10 big blinds is like 30ish%, which makes queen 8 a fold, because that's not even in the 30% range. Like I said I was going to raise this, but I was so short that I thought maybe limp was better, whatever. I mean, it doesn't make that much of a difference, I don't think. I think he probably would have called with king 5 if I shove anyway. I guess I'm not following what my own strategy, but I said, I guess I've been limping so much that it is probably a good idea to like balance out a little bit with the stronger hands as well. So I don't hate this. And then I went back and forth between betting and checking this river. Probably should have bet the turn, to be honest with you. But anyway, I went back and forth. And I thought that the way he played the 8-6, I thought like he would bet a 7. So anyway, I think my thinking was when I bet the river was I basically just didn't want him to see my hand. And if he did end up having like jack 4 or something, then so be it. And he folds pretty quickly. So when he has 8 big blinds, if we look at 8 deuce suited on the Nash chart, it's definitely not a shove. I think I should probably limp here, and I don't think shoving would be bad either, just because he just calls chips like relatively tight, like way too tightly in my opinion. So I think like any suited cards at the stack depth is probably going to be good against him. I don't really like a fold there. I think limping is probably better than shoving. It's probably better than folding. One thing I did notice that's conventional about his game is like open shoves, like they tend to be like pretty standard once he gets like below like 8 big blinds, something like that. Bet this flop. He can call with 5x, like gut shot, stuff like that. Decided to just check this turn. I think it connects with some of his ranges calling like the queen 8s and stuff like that. And then once he checks this river, I think it's pretty clear that we have the best hand. I think he's nitty, but I think he would bet a 9 on the river. Maybe not if it was like a 9 like we had, like a 9 deuce or something. But I decided to try to get a call out of a 5 by betting 1/4 pot here. I think that was the best way to get value. I don't think we ever get called if we bet 80, so I guess I like 80 as a bluff and 40 as a value bet in an exploitative fashion. You can see he's thinking about it, so I think I think that probably means it's a good bet because it makes him think about a 5. So, and in that situation, I don't think betting bigger, while that sometimes might induce more calls, I don't think in that situation it would. Even though he's pretty nitty with the open shoves, like I said, 30%, queen jack still going to be a call. I could have limped here. But again, another thing I did notice actually is that like he's, in terms of, again, with him shoving with 8 big blinds or less, I think that also applies to him calling, is that he's not as conservative about it. So I still think we capture a lot of his medium to low strength hands there, which we did. His 3-bet percentage, non-3-bet all-in percentage is extremely low. I think it's like 6% or something, so there's absolutely no reason to call there. In a deeper stacked format, if you were against a really tight opponent, you'd absolutely want to call there because you could take advantage of the fact that their range is just so tight and so strong that you have massive implied odds, but not there. You know, with these King 5 hands against really aggressive regs, they turn into like 4-bet ships, but not against this guy. Definitely check raise his board 100% of the time against this guy. Backdoor clubs, gut shot, overcard to the second card. Just think it's a perfect board for it, really. And again, I'm going to be super balanced against more advanced opponents. I mean, I'm going to make that check raise against more advanced opponents too, but I'm also going to have like all my flush draws and King X and even second pair type hands. Again, not that great of a board against him, but I decided just to bet to fold out his like jack highs and 8-7 suiteds and stuff. He was still opening at 15 blinds. He was still opening like 75%, so I decided to throw in some, I mean, that's not even really that like aggressive, but more aggressive shoves, I guess. And you can see just how much he's folding. You don't even need the stats to see how much he's folding to 3-bet shoves. Like I said before, he did adjust to it a little bit later on by raise calling a wider range, but at this point he had not done that. I think I just like betting this board in retrospect. It looks like I checked back, but I just think there's a lot of bad cards, and it's just, I'd rather just bet and then just like check down if he calls. Just because he does, I think his folded continuation bet's like 60%, so he's probably not even like check raising his like jack nines and stuff like that, so that makes it more valuable to bet in my opinion. And he usually, you know, when we check back here and we have the best hand, he still usually has like somewhere between like 6 and 8 out, so. Thought I had the best hand on the river, but he turned an 8. And like I said, even with 2-7, I think that'd be a profitable limp, but I just want to pitch the occasional hand to maintain my limping privileges. I was going to raise call here. Like I said, he doesn't rejam that much, but I think at this point it was like 20-ish% or something, or 18%. So that still would have been a raise call for me. And even though he was only raising 50% at 10 big blinds, I think 10-9 was still a decent shove. Obviously, you can flat it. I don't think it really matters that much.